Hello, my name is Rick Miracle. I've been making videos and writing material, reading books, magazines, watching videos, press releases, reading them, collecting them, sorting them out. If I had to stack all the press releases, sheets of paper, it'd probably be about 6 feet high. Hundreds of magazines I have. My favorite's Nexus. Thousands and thousands of videos I've watched. And press releases, essays and comments I've made year after year on hard drives I have, and other people's comments. Because I was curious back in 2005 about what the heck was going on in the world. I was pretty much a man enjoying my life in Florida. Had a huge sailboat, sailed my own boat to the Bahamas. Sold that, bought a brand new powerboat, 22 foot, paid cash. Had a house near the beach, condo in Orlando, etc. Just a normal guy who spent 30 plus years working and working and working and had a few toys to play with, minding my own business. But then after 2001 and of course the 2008 stock market crash, I had one of those big zero birthdays in 2005 at a crossroads in my life. And clients, my businesses were suffering. People's financial statements, let's say a pizzeria, was grossing maybe $600,000, paying $5,000 a month in rent. Let's just call it New York pizza, something like that. And then the numbers started going down. Now he's making $350,000 a year. But he's still paying $5,000 in rent, which with those gross sales you can't afford. You're going broke. And many of us are aware of people losing their homes, cars, getting divorced because of financial issues, and so much more. So I decided to look into it. And it's been a very interesting experience these many years, and I thought I'd talk about it for a few minutes. And just off the top of my head, some topics. I do have a chart in front of me, just headlines. So I'll start out with the top. CERN. Apparently CERN is attempting, maybe accomplished, opening a portal to another dimension. One of the YouTube videos I watched showed some kind of anomaly up in the sky. The whole thing turned into like a vortex, and you could hear the wind rushing. And then the employees or people at CERN had this crazy, bizarre advertisement, ritual, weird dancing, kind of satanic, out there. And the symbol out in front of CERN is 666. The goddess of destruction, Shiva, is out front. And so much more. CERN. And I'm aware, and so are a lot of other people. Like I said, I'm aware, so are a lot of other people, of other anomalies. History is full of stories about ghosts, psychic photography, taking a picture of a person and seeing a ghost behind the person. Apparently there's something called witchcraft, voodoo, which are, it's not fake, it really works. Holistic healing. In the Bible, Jesus healing. casting out unclean spirits. Okay, what are unclean spirits? So CERN. And then you have Atlantis. Let's just talk about this non-physical reality, physical reality. Invisible reality and invisible reality. Visible reality, invisible. So then you talk about Atlantis, which apparently was into some horrific genetic engineering, making creatures, half man, half animals, sex creatures, warrior creatures, slave creatures, whatever they were doing, and whoever God is, they were displeased with this goings-on planet Earth. So they had the sinking of Atlantis. And the Atlanteans, according to my research, some of them went off towards Central, South, North America. Some of them went off towards Europe, Africa, Asia. And apparently, if you look at the pyramidal structures in these different places, you see some similarities. But anyways, in Egypt in particular, the Atlanteans were wearing out their welcome because they were, again, into this genetic engineering cloning. And it actually horrified the Egyptian people at that time, thousands of years ago. So they had a kind of a battle and they made an agreement. So then you fast forward through time, and the same thing was going on before Noah's flood, the great flood all over the world, documented all over the world. And apparently, again, talking about portals and CERN and Atlantis, some spiritual, godlike beings, whatever, gave Noah the heads up and said, you and your family, you need to build this ark and be ready. That's the biblical story we Christians know. Because there's going to be a great flood and everything is going to be destroyed again after Atlantis. And apparently with the Hopi Indians and the Ecuadorians, Peruvians, and different cultures all over the world, there's documented evidence that a remnant of the human race was saved. Some kind of beings in the Ecuadorian mountains. Eric Van Donovich wrote the book, The Gold of the Gods, I've gone over. Frank Waters wrote about the Hopis and the underground facilities and in the mountains. There's evidence of that over there in Europe, all over the world. So some entities were trying to save the human race. So there we got this invisible reality, again. So what's going on? So we know that King Solomon in Jerusalem had built King Solomon's temple. And he gained his power because he had a magic ring with a six-pointed star. Magic again. And he could call forth demons, these beings, from a non-physical reality. And apparently that's where he got his power. And apparently he upset the god again, because I think he married a, what was her name, the famous woman who was into the pagan ancient religions, which was into idolatry, worshiping idols. What was her name? Sheba? So you got interdimensional beings again, spiritual beings. And of course the Native American Indians were into communicating with spiritual beings, entities, leaving their bodies, maybe possessing eagles, animals, the wolf, taking peyote, Jimson weed, mushrooms, and other drugs. Like in Peru, they take the awasha drug, some kind of vine. And over there in China, India, that area where they got opium. So this is documented yet again all over the world, where you had shamans who were taking drugs to communicate with the invisible reality, the spiritual reality. And as I've said in my videos, this flesh and blood body would not be standing here if I did not have an auric field around me, which is probably part of my subtle body or my spirit body or my soul. And there have been doctors and nurses and many people who have been at the hospital, etc. When people died and they seen this being leave the body. Plenty of books. So you got King Solomon, Atlantis, Native American, communicating with beings all throughout history. In the Bible you have Elohim mentioned, which are supposed to be these spiritual beings who apparently mated, had found the human women attractive, and mated with them and created some beings that turned out to be giants. Stephen Quayle wrote a book about giants, and there's all kinds of evidence in the Bible about giants. The Smithsonian Institute usually shows up out of nowhere if you find a gigantic skull in your backyard, if you're digging a swimming pool or a cellar for a house or something. And even in the Grand Canyon, they discovered in one of the caves, some miners who were looking for gold or whatever, found some golden artifacts, Egyptian. Tons of it. Smithsonian showed up out of nowhere. These two guys were told to shut up or they'd be dead. They dynamited the tunnel entrance and took off with all the artifacts. So this seems to be a regular thing, taking all these things people find and keeping it all a secret from the rest of us, from what I've been learning. So the Great Flood, Egypt, giants. So now, I'm trying to put this together. And this cosmic religion, theosophy, Kabbalah, the stuff in Albert Pike's book, Morals and Dogma. It's like this kind of religion, and it mentions these gods. It mentions Osiris, Isis, Horus. And they keep saying right now that there's this thing coming. We have to remember in the back of our head, this invisible reality exists. This spiritual reality exists. Maybe alongside with the physical manifested reality. Maybe it's outside of some shield above our heads. Like if you look at the Rosicrucian photos you can find on Yahoo image site, you'll see a flat plane with the continents and a big shield over it. So you've seen this theme maybe in TV programming. I think they made a movie about it with Lost in Space, that movie. That they were going through the shield. So there's a lot of talk throughout our history, TV programming, movies, all about these spiritual beings, including Gene Roddenberry with Star Trek. If you look at the themes of the old Star Trek series, you can see this thing about reptilian creatures, possession, magic, whatever. And Gene Roddenberry got a lot of his material by going into a meditative state, maybe yoga, and working with psychics in Hollywood. So if you go look at the old series, you'll see a lot of that stuff. Reptilian, possession, different kinds of this reality. So they are, I guess, showing us all this truth. But are people paying attention? So knowing there's this other reality, and they say apparently there's these threats, if you've seen them on YouTube or whatever, alternate websites, even books published at the bookstore, about some planet X, Nibiru, also called the Destroyer, the Black Sun, which apparently is a kind of a religion of the Black Sun. Hitler was into it, and so are a lot of occultists. So now I'm starting to put the pieces of the puzzle together a little more, because they say this cosmic Christ is coming. And in my studies of the Theophist material, the New Age material, listening to the Palladians and the other sites with the astrologers that I've been learning about lately more and more. A friend of mine was showing it to me, and I was listening to these people, and reminded me of what the Palladians saying. And the another one, Zeta. Anyways, apparently there's this huge body coming in space. And then we have a combination, and they're talking about global warming, global cooling, rising oceans, increased earthquakes. The pole is actually shifting. So a lot of geomagnetic anomalies going on planet Earth. Earthquakes, floods, pole shift. And then there's books written about a cosmic Christ coming. And in the Theosophist Society material, they believe they worship the sun. And I'm not trying to say they just worship a rock. They think the sun is a living entity. And they worship the moon, they think is a living entity. And they're saying this cosmic Christ is coming, and they're saying this planet Nibiru, sun, a dark sun, a black sun, Herculaneum, the destroyer, is coming. So apparently this entity that's coming, celestial body, another sun, maybe it's a living entity, or they think it is. Cosmic Christ, Nibiru, Herculaneum, Planet X. Ancient aliens depict this gigantic orb on their head with the horns and in all their other symbology. And they have beings maybe associated with this coming orb called Anunnaki. So you got cosmic chaos and cosmic Christ and something called Nibiru. And they're talking about this phase shifting, this merging, this ascension. And here I am trying to just go about my daily life and everybody else. But things are a bit bizarre. So now we have a lot of threats and apparently legislation or treaties, control mechanisms coming out of the United Nations and being promoted all over the world, the propaganda of global cooling in the 70s. You can go look this up on your computer. Everything I say, if you put in these keywords on the computer, you'll find plenty of information. So the 70s, the world was going to ice over. And according to core samples in the ice from Alaska, the Himalayas, Iceland, everywhere, whenever there's a warm season, there's a layer of more organic material, like leaves and everything else, and dust, because everything grew. And when they have an ice age, there's less of that organic material. So they can do these core samples a mile deep and look at the layers and tell you when we had warming periods and ice ages. You can go look this up on Zionist Yahoo Images. I misspeak often. And see it and see the charts. So we've had warming periods, cooling periods, warming periods, cooling periods. Nothing new under the sun, it's natural. So what creates this whole reality and the system of the sun and the planets cruising around the galaxy as we are all taught? How does it all work? I don't believe anybody knows. I am a bit suspect, and that's my privilege to be suspicious. But apparently, I'm on this planet, standing right here, and it's spinning at 1,000 miles an hour. Think about that. You're standing in a position like I am, and 1 hour later, apparently I'm 1,000 miles elsewhere. Not only that, apparently the Earth, according to the way we are taught, cruises around the sun. So I was questioning myself, okay, well, how fast is the Earth traveling? So I figured out the diameter. You can go on the computer and look it up. And I went and reminded myself the formula for figuring out the circumference of something, times pi, whatever. And it was 200 million miles or something, the track around the sun that the Earth travels. So I divided that by 365 days and divided that by 24 hours. And the Earth is shooting ahead around the sun. You're not going to believe it. I didn't believe it. At 66.6 thousand miles an hour. 66.6. And I think if you measure from the center of the sun to the path, it might be closer to 700,000 miles an hour. But the way I did it, it came out 666. It was just a bit suspicious to me. And then I thought, well, wait a minute. If the Earth is traveling straight ahead, leaving summer and heading towards fall, as you know, the Earth is at a tilt, at 66.6 thousand miles an hour, 1 hour, 66.6 thousand miles an hour, and if the Apollo spacecraft actually went to the moon and they left Earth's atmosphere, I'm just wondering, an hour later, would Earth be 66.6 thousand miles away? Or were they cruising at 66.6 thousand miles an hour? Or was there some kind of atmosphere? A little chart's falling down. Or is there some kind of atmosphere encompassing the Earth and the moon? And maybe the whole, well, it couldn't be the whole solar system. So it just doesn't make sense to me. So I'm really wondering what this reality really is. Are we really on a huge plateau with a dome, and these alien beings, spiritual beings, elementals, demons, divas, cherubim, reptilians, godlike beings, whatever, ghosts, are they on the other side of this shield? What kind of portal would have to open to allow whatever entities are elsewhere into this dimension? So there's a lot of that in the news these days. A lot of this stuff is popping up even in Main Street news. You can go on the CERN website, or a lot of people's videos, or that ritual they had with the people dancing, and just see some really pretty strange stuff. So here we are on this planet, apparently hurtling around the sun at 66.6 thousand miles an hour, rotating at 1,000 miles an hour, with a history of Earth's history of another reality, a spiritual reality, an invisible reality, a non-physical reality. So I'm just trying to put the whole thing together. So there seems to be something called alchemy, using different chemicals and magic to create outcomes, maybe even turning lead into gold, turning human beings into animals, manifesting stuff as magicians do, walking through walls as apparently gray aliens have been recorded as doing, spaceships popping in and out of our reality. So alchemy. And I'm thinking, wait a minute, there's sky spraying chemicals in the sky all the time. They got these HARP transmitters, microwave transmitters, strategically located like in a triangle shape, up in Alaska, down by Puerto Rico, up by Norway, down by India, all over the world. Oh, like a lattice network. And we're getting something like phase shifting or Mandela effect, they say. And it's like somebody's messing with the gigantic software program or matrix that makes up our reality. So I'm just trying to put it together. So global cooling, global warming, climate change, and then so they have all these anomalies, and they're dumping chemicals in the sky, and all these electronic pieces of equipment, HARP systems, cell phone towers, ELF towers, satellite systems, cell phones, Wi-Fi. And apparently there's a lot of nefarious suspected effects of these things. We are bioelectric beings. And apparently since World War II, when in Project Paperclip, America got its share, Europe got its, and Russia got its, and everybody was trying to grab those German scientists and engineers who were into some kind of occult magic stuff or intercommunication with beings. The Vril Society, the Thule Society. Even Rabbi Marvin Antelman, in his book, To Eliminate the Opate, people's belief in God and prayer. Why do they not want us to pray? If this other dimension and reality is out there, and God wants us to pray. So why do they, who will want to change the world, not want us to pray? So anyways, apparently, sacrificing humans does something to open up a portal, a vortex, to allow these beings through, like King Solomon's magic ring with the 6-pointed stars, and all kinds of other symbols, like a circle with a hexagram or a pentagram in the middle, that witches use in witchcraft, to bring about some effect or communicate with some demonic beings. So I'm getting a theme here, you know. What's going on in our reality now? That's why I'm making this video. Is to open up our mind, our eyes, our ears. Because a lot of people are just tuned out, zoned out, don't know. These things I'm saying, I encourage you, please, get a pad and a pencil and write down these keywords I'm saying and go look them up. You're going to find out it's all out there. I did. So they're dumping all the chemicals in the sky. They're into alchemy and magic. And there is a non-physical reality. And apparently some gigantic cosmic energy is coming called the Destroyer, Nibiru, Planet X. And they're saying it's shifting the planet and causing earthquakes and pole shifting and weather calamities, etc. And right now, apparently in Paris, they're supposed to be signing something called the Paris Agreement, which means they're going to have agreed on what they're going to do about this global warming that they're trying to blame on we the people. So we the people are going to have to abide by whatever control mechanisms they come up with. To me, it's just a big ruse, as they want to enslave the population and not have we the people living like we're been living, at least a portion of us. Of course, the third world, most of the world, is only catching up recently to the United States and Europe. And this is probably freaking out these elitists in running or controlling the planet. You know, they're having to feed more people and more air conditioning systems and more cars and more oil. And I'm a bit suspect about that question too. I think a lot of people can agree that very little of the information that we receive through our senses, the media, TV, the movies, politicians speaking, even the religious teachings, preachers, we can all maybe agree, most of us, there's a lot of lies and deception. And I wonder if there's any truth to anything they tell us, including the Earth spinning around the sun, driving around the sun, cruising around the sun at 66.6 thousand miles an hour. Seems to me, you know, like a bug on your windshield, we would be smashing into things that were out there in space. If you go on Soho and watch the sun, it's supposedly a satellite in space, and see the comets zooming by and striking the sun. So if we were cruising at 66.6 thousand miles an hour, it would just be amazing to me that we didn't run into some big comets and rocks and stuff out there in space, year after year after year after year. That's just me. So they don't tell us too much stuff that's true. They keep deceiving us. And for years and years and years, they used wars between one kingdom and another kingdom, or one country against another country, and told their citizens we have to go attack them, and those people would attack them. And they controlled the people in the world by having all these wars and stealing resources, and even crazy things like burning witches and putting people on racks and torturing them just for pleasure. Sick. Even during the Crusades from 1000 AD to 1300, 300 years. They had 8 crusades. So they had 8 crusades over 300 years, where the kings and queens of Europe, Germany, England, France, Italy, Spain, etc., Austria, under the approval or guidance, blessing of the Vatican and the Pope, would march off across the land, Turkey, Greece, the northern Mediterranean, raping and pillaging the people along the way. And then when they get over there on the north border, going down Palestine, the land of Canaan, now called Israel, castle after castle, they would attack and finally gain entrance and slaughter the people entirely. The blood would flow out up to your knees. Nobody left alive, even children. They had to split open their guts with a sword or a knife just to see if they had swallowed a gold coin, something they did back then. And so they would conquer the entire area, Jerusalem, etc. And the pilgrims would be there, all the people who had come from Europe, and the kings and queens, and would now control the castles. And eventually, 10, 20 years later, some Arab from one tribe or another would rise up famous. It makes you wonder what was going on in this non-physical reality, spiritual world, what it was controlling, what its involvement was with all of this because of the prophets they had. But anyways, somebody would rise up and get hundreds of thousands and thousands of the Arabs that are natives to the land and retake all those castles and cities and kill all those people, except for the kings and queens and other princes and elitists. They would get on ships on the coastline in the Mediterranean and sail back home. Always. The elites always made it. There goes my phone. I'm not trying to drag this out, but this 8 crusades over 300 years, I guess, was a profitable venture for the Pope, Vatican, kings and queens, and the elitists, at the expense of a lot of the citizens' lives, on both sides. And then there are Alexander the Great and his warring, almost taking over the world. Genghis Khan coming down from northwestern Russia, Mongolia, taking all over China and most of the world. Caesar, Napoleon, Hitler, World War I, World War II. So there's no shortage of history details documented of this murder and mayhem, chaos and anarchy for thousands of years. And apparently, it's alive and well right now. In the Syria, for example, in the Middle East, it's just about so for quite a few years now, they've been destroying and attacking the Syrian country, people, destroying everything if you look at the pictures. They made quick business of it, apparently, in Iraq and Afghanistan, and overthrowing the president in Egypt, Tunisia, the Ukraine, a lot of countries in Africa. So they lie about everything, and I'm just thinking to myself, and I know a lot of natives were eliminated, killed, in South America, Central America, from 1900 to 1999. Maybe during the 1800s, 1801 to 1899, 17, I don't know. But I know in the from 1900 to 2000, 40, 50, 60, according to my research, native South Americans and Central Americans died. Africans, probably in the millions and millions. And since the last 10 years, 15 years, probably millions and millions either dead or displaced people in the Middle East. So I rather question whether there are actually 6 billion people on the planet. Because again, as I said, they lie about everything else. So I think it's all a big business thing for these elitists, and they don't need so many people, and they probably can't control it. And they're probably a little concerned about losing their control over the planet. And I suspect they are deeply intertwined with these other beings from this other dimension, this non-physical reality, invisible reality, spiritual world. So what is that interplay between this world and that world, which certainly seems to exist? Then you get an aha moment and you go, CERN opening up portals? Wait a minute, Rick, that can't be good. And you tell me maybe there's other colliders and these portals elsewhere on the planet? South Africa maybe, wherever? And of course they've been doing it on a much smaller scale forever. Like when Hitler kidnapped his people, according to Rabbi Marvin Antelman in his book, To Eliminate the Opaque. In Hitler's diary, apparently they kidnapped a gypsy Munich, Germany man, laid him out on an altar and killed him, sacrificed him, to bring forth some being, which apparently, according to Hitler's diary, did appear in Rabbi Marvin Antelman's book. And Rabbi Marvin Antelman was the leader of the Jewish Congress of the United States of America. And there is a lot of other documented evidence about this sacrificing people and interdimensional beings. Even UFO craft, apparently a vortex will appear in the sky, a dark circle or something, or out of a cloud. And out of it will come the UFO, and sometimes when they're fleeing away or flying away, in front of them this vortex portal will open, and they disappear into it. In a lot of your UFO books and about aliens, this appears to be the case. So the common denominator, wherever you look, is there throughout history. This other reality does exist. And either through this magic or other occultic witchcraft type religion has always existed. And I think it's important that we people today, 2016, September, wake up to this fact, because the symbolism is in all the TV program, Grammys, Emmys, in Switzerland with that tunnel opening ceremony, football halftime shows, Shiva type dances, and movies like Indiana Jones, and a lot of horrific depictions out there. Movies like Hunger Games, Divergent. I think somebody's trying to tell us about this reality that is coming, and I think that a lot of people are just zoning out. Don't want to talk about it. Don't want to acknowledge the sky spraying, even when they look up and see the lattice network. And there are efforts, and I've seen in the Freemasonic books and the Theosophist Society, New Age material, a lot of people saying bad things about Christians and demonizing them, trying to call them haters and trying to destroy their religion. Not to be outdone by the fact that they have pretty much destroyed all the people into the Islamic religion in the Middle East. So I don't think it's just a destruction of the Christian religion. I think it's any and all religions that do not go along with the new Luciferic, satanic, new one world religion, which appears that it's going to be controlled by these demonic otherworld entities that somehow seem to have the ability to possess humans. And of course, possession by demons and beings is recorded throughout history again. So apparently who these people, whoever they are, the Illuminati, Zionist types, Mystery School of Babylon, as William Cooper, Bill Cooper, has detailed in his many videos on YouTube. Just look up Mystery School of Babylon, Bill Cooper, William Cooper, and go enjoy some of his videos. Fascinating details about the Mystery School of Babylon religion, the old religion of the pharaohs and the Egyptians. So I think they're trying to protect the status quo. They don't want to lose control. So they have to depopulate the planet, which is what they're telling us in the books I've gone over that are actually called the population bomb. They make no bounds about it. A lot of people have to go. And again, I don't think there's an overpopulation problem. I don't think there's 6 billion people. And I'll keep sticking to what I'm saying. For one reason, they're lying about everything else. So I just think it's people that are not needed. So they're protecting the status quo. And those of us who are into more of a moral, social reality that we would like for ourselves and our children, maybe growing old and safely being able to walk out of the house and go down to the store and get some groceries or go to the park, or your kid to be safe, to grow up, to go to school, to have a life. Some of us picture reality like that. Apparently somebody's got this crazy Pokemon type reality played out for them. They want it, I guess. Bizarre is good. Looking like a total creature or freak is in. Even Aleister Crowley, writing in his book, Do As Thou Wilt, there's only one law, do as thou wilt. The second law is referred to number 1, do as thou wilt, known as the evilest man alive because of his bragging about what he had done to children in satanic sexual rituals and sacrificial rituals. Like in California, the Bohemian Grove, Alex Jones snuck in there, and a lot of pictures of our famous politicians and leaders are attending this club for old and famous men, I guess, who like to dress naked under these robes and ship in gay men for some satanic sex and throw a baby under a gigantic owl called Moloch in a ceremony called the cremation of care. So painting this picture about all these goings on to bring about the New Age, destroy Christianity, and promote atheism. And again, I think it's all a ruse. I think they have this new religion getting ready and waiting, all prophesied in the Bible. And people will have to be microchipped and swear allegiance to this religion, or probably beheaded or imprisoned or enslaved. So microchipping the population is part of the program. They got computers monitoring us 24/7. Drones, Wi-Fi, and they plan on rationing the resources, bringing about a communist-style reality. And apparently these Zionist Jewish folks feel that they will be the aristocrats of the world and control everything from Tel Aviv and Jerusalem. And there is activity going on to try and preparations and probably construction to rebuild King Solomon's temple. Remember, the king who had a magic ring with a 6-pointed star to call forth demons, and it's public information if you go look it up on your computer. They're rebuilding it. And I think the thing that stood in the way was all those citizens in the Middle East. I don't want to call them Muslims or Islamists or Arabs, because I'm sure there were all flavors of people. People who were black, brown, and white, Buddhist, Hindu, atheist, Christians, Muslims, Zoroastrianism, whatever religion, no religion. All those people had to be eliminated. And if you go look at pictures of bombed building in the Middle East, no country is spared, no town, no city. You can obviously see it is a total destruction of everything in the Middle East. And if you go look up on Yahoo image site, Greater Israel, you'll even see it's not just that little sliver of land anymore. They want the whole thing, from Euphrates to the Nile, from northwestern Iraq right through Syria, so Syria has to come down. And even now, September 2016, on a daily basis, you can pay attention yourself, but apparently there is more and more demonizing of Iran even saying they're attacking the American ships and provoking them. And I'm just wondering if an Iranian ship came into New York Harbor, would the Americans circle the ship? I suspect they would. So you got an American ship over there apparently appearing broken down, and the Iranians circled it and arrested the people. So would they do that over here? Would they do that in London, England, if an Iranian ship was in the bay? And China, would China arrest anybody over there? There's already been some squabbling going on between the Chinese and the Americans and the other Asian countries. So this stuff is still going on, and I think it's intentional. They want to bring it to a head. They do want a world war. If they can't bring about the new age and the new world order by their propaganda, deception, and lies, they'll do it the hard way. Maybe a few nukes, electromagnetic pulses, taking out electricity. Look what they did in Iraq, for example. I mean, they targeted the sewer systems, the water supply. It was an intentional destruction of an entire nation. So, moving on, and if you're a Christian, you're going to be called a hater. 911 enabled all this to happen so they could bring back something called the return of the golden age. That would be these semi-human, demonic, reptilian, Syrian or Pleiadian, whatever kind of intermix of DNA beings controlling the planet again. They're controlling a lot of us with symbolism. And of course, the media, newspaper, propaganda, TV, so much of it is lies and deception. And people are buying into even the slogans and the logos. One of my friends owns a restaurant downtown here where I live. And in front of his restaurant, Trump was in town yesterday, where I live. And he put a sign out in front of his restaurant, "Make breakfast great again." Well, even the local news caught on to it. It became very popular and everybody was thinking it was funny. So it's surprising how these logos and propaganda and things like 911 can do to us. And with the sky spraying and the HARP transmitters, I'm convinced they're controlling the weather, and a lot of people have been in denial, saying it's weather control, weather warfare. So I think, and I've seen some of the propaganda press releases, and they keep emphasizing that the deniers are crazy. And I think with weather control in 2016, they've really turned up the dial on that gigantic microwave transmitter, or dozens of them, and dumping of aluminum and coal ash into the sky. So I think they're trying to make a point and make it much hotter so they'll get more believability from the larger zombified population. And I'm not trying to talk bad about anybody. I say this because I want people to, when they look up and see that lattice network of sprayed chemicals coming out of jets and painting a blue sky white, and you hold your arm out and the intensity of the rays is burning you like somebody's holding a gigantic magnifying glass over the earth. So like I said, they want to ration resources and treat us like animals. Lest we forget many of the bad Jews, not to be confused with the good Jews who are not part of this. But they call us Goy and Goyim. If you go on the jpost.com, the English edition of the Jewish newspaper, read a press release and then scroll down or read the comments, you will see what they say, even the horrific things about Jesus, calling him names and what they'd like to do to him that I wouldn't mention in this video. That's me. So you got these occultists, Kabbalists, Zionists, communism, rationing resources, drones, monitoring everyone, population reduction, microchipping the population, New World Order, hate crimes, 911, return to the golden age, promoting atheism, destroying Christianity, creating a new age, protecting the status quo, their control. And then they want people to not accept morality, but actually go for the perverted, decadent sexual reality they're promoting. And anybody opposing it will be called haters, and the new religion is a fundamental thinking, do as thou wilt. Biological warfare they're using. Biological weapons, Zika viruses creating in laboratories. Then, because the Zika virus is a accepted fear by a lot of people, they got the trucks spraying out chemicals in your neighborhood with your little kid on a bicycle, and they're just puffing, spreading this stuff out like a cloud. Oh my. I think they'd give us a little warning or a siren on that thing to run inside and cover your head with a pillow or get a gas mask on. But that's just me. So look up RFID chips, mercury in vaccine causing autism. I think 20 years ago they might have had 4 or 5 vaccines that your child would have to get. Now it's like 20, 25 before they're even 3 years old. Talk about toxins, poisons. It's insane. And they're creating in laboratories swine flu, I guess biological weapons. Monsanto is creating all these genetically modified foods, pesticides and herbicides and all these things that are getting into our bodies. And by the way, the genetically modified foods and grains are everywhere. And your body, my body, everybody's, were not designed to consume these genetically lab-created foods and animals created in labs. So your body actually rejects it like an enemy, if you know how your cells work. And when they do attack things, they tend to gather all around the enemy in your body, which creates a big growth, and the reason you get tumors that grow bigger and bigger and bigger, more of your cells are jumping on board, trying to suppress the detrimental, dangerous thing in your body. So then they have to go cut out the tumor, and those were basically cells trying to protect you. So that's what the genetically modified foods do. And I believe the people, the CEOs and the owners of these huge corporations, I won't name their names, you can just go look them up. Maybe go look up Fritz Springmeier and his book, Illuminati, and I'm sure anywhere on the internet. And you'll see all these major corporations are owned by these Illuminati peoples. Elitist, generally speaking, Jewish folks, Zionist Jewish folks, and other elitist, into something of a satanic type, Luciferic type religion. And you got there also experimenting with Ebola. Population reduction, like I said, biological warfare, bioweapons, Zika virus. Meanwhile, the government and the police are gearing up, buying all kinds of gear, and even having the federal government pretty much force it on your local sheriff department or police department. SWAT-type vehicles. Vehicles they used over there in Iraq that could survive even landmines. Why do they need that in downtown Mayberry? They're getting us all ready. And they're even having train exercises like last year. Is it Jade 15? Jade Helm? Gun confiscation, shootings, bombings, propaganda news. Meanwhile, the government is documented to be purchasing anywhere from 450 million hollow point bullets to 1.4 billion hollow point bullets for Homeland Security. Now, it's just me, but I don't think we should be using hollow point bullets on anybody on the planet. Unless it's a crazed wolf or something that's just a vicious attacker bent on destroying and murdering people. Then what are you going to do? So apparently, these Illuminati, Zionist, Rosicrucian top-up people, Freemason top-up people, not all the lower levels, but all these people who are bent on all these things I'm talking about, paying for, sponsoring these military and private company black operations, developing plagues and viruses and weapons, monitoring systems and genetically modified food and cloning animals and genetically modified people. Go look it up. Those people wouldn't hurt my feelings if they were escorted off planet Earth. So if you Palladians or you Syrians or even the Pixies are out there, gray aliens, and you got enough room on your cargo ships, please take these evil folks off the planet. Just say, it's either them or us, and I think the decent people should survive. Of course, I believe in God and Jesus, so I'm not really worried about it, but I worry about a lot of other people who don't know what's going on, hence I make videos. So while they're doing gun confiscation, they're buying up all kinds of hollow point bullets and having our police department, sheriff departments, National Guard, military, and all these entities gear up and preparing for Jade Helm 15 and other kinds of military exercises. So apparently they think we're going to be the enemy worldwide. So labs are genetically creating viruses, Zika, mosquitoes, creating them, releasing them, plagues, vaccines, bacteria, and other illnesses, vaccines, making FEMA camps, causing civil unrest intentionally. Takes money and organization to get those people riled up and shipped by buses, and giving them money to go downtown and create all these riots and civil disturbances. Doesn't happen by itself. 200,000 apparently homeless people a year are vanishing, disappearing. Apparently 50,000 or more children, young ones, are disappearing. And the theory is, according to many websites, is they're being used in satanic sacrifices. So then you got the Mandela effect. Apparently some kind of time warping in this matrix reality we live in, if you believe it. Seems to me there are some weird things going on, and if you believe in the invisible reality and this reality, and the non-physical reality and this reality, and the spiritual reality, and all this stuff that's documented throughout history on ancient monuments, scrolls, and books, then I guess in CERN opening up portals and UFOs and aliens popping into existence, popping out of existence, Philadelphia experiment, microwave transmitters around the ship, it disappears, it reappears, people are half in, half out of the bulkhead. Jacob's ladder, the two poles with the arc electricity going up and down, you throw a penny or an ink pen through it, they disappear across the room. Time machine. H.G. Wells wrote a book called The Time Machine. Same guy, H.G. Wells, who wrote in his book, one book, The New World Order, that I went over in some of my videos. So you got the Mandela, YouTube monitoring everything that you watch. Apparently the government is documenting everything we watch, buy, read, do, spend. And Like I said, bacterium. Endless fear-mongering. Jade Helm, what do you think that caused last year in 2015? I mean, trains, everybody doing videos, and people seeing them with their eyes, including me, driving down the interstate. Long lines of military vehicles and all this fear-mongering. What do you think that does to the economy? To the people's trust in the government? And Walmart participating, other corporations participating in this. I guess they'll do anything for money. Military underground bases in cities and truck drivers reporting all kinds of supplies being shipped into them. Crazy. Apparently we even have a secret backup government that's in play right now. It goes to work every day. There's a secret government behind the government. Why doesn't that just surprise me? These politicians are all, that we see, are all just actors pretending to be doing something. When I think the people behind the scenes, the actual secret government, is probably the real government. The non-elected folks, who apparently are bent on destroying the population and bringing about a new age and a new world order. All right, moving on. Looking at my notes on my long chart here. So apparently, the powers that be, our leaders, are not abiding by the Constitution. And apparently, according to my research, we're not even a constitutional government anymore. It's a big corporation. So I guess that would make Obama, or maybe Donald Trump or Hillary, whoever's next, the CEO of the corporation. And as we all know, corporations are supposed to look out for the interests of the shareholders. And they do not believe we people are shareholders. What we really are is collateral. Ourselves, our children, everything you own, when the governments borrow money, use you as collateral. Apparently in 1880 something, you can go look this up, but there was yet again another foreclosure of the USA, the government borrowing money, controlled, I hate to keep saying this, by these Illuminati entities, Freemason high level, not all the lower people, the guys who go down there just to join the Freemasons. I hate that when people don't think, and no, I don't mean everybody. And the Rosicrucians, no, I don't mean everybody. But the lower level people are being slowly brought up to par. And if they pass muster, they qualify. They get indoctrinated into the evil side aspect of these organizations. Like the Jesuits, for example, are the military arm of the Catholic Church. So I suspect there is something planned for the world where the Catholic Church has to exercise its strong arm against the people. And they'll use the Jesuits, the heretics, the ones who don't listen. So 2,000 years ago, or 1,700, 1,800 years ago, they were ready, able, and willing to go slaughter all those people in the Middle East and elsewhere who wouldn't go with the church religious line. And now they flipped over and they want to destroy the ones who are moral and Christian, and they want to, I guess, maybe go back to, because prior to accepting Christianity they were pagans into this occultic type religion, worshiping some god called Maitreya. And they talk about the coming new cosmic Christ, Maitreya. So all this stuff is coming together. You can see where it's going. So you got the endless fear-mongering, fake constitutional government. You got Prime Minister Sharon of Israel saying years ago in a heated argument in his Congress, "Don't worry about the USA, we control the USA." Benjamin Netanyahu in Fink's Bar, "Look up these things I say, please don't believe me. If you look up Benjamin Netanyahu in Fink's Bar, you won't believe what you're going to read." Needless to say, he hates America, they hate America, they intend to destroy America. Why do I not find that surprising from everything else that's going on? In 1913, when Woodrow Wilson was president, 1913, 103 years ago, Christmas vacation, Woodrow Wilson was a puppet stooge for the Zionist Jewish folks in New York City, if you didn't know that, worldwide Jewish Zionist folks, not all Jewish folks. And apparently they tried to control the president prior to Woodrow Wilson, but he would not do what those Zionist Illuminati Jewish types told him to do. They just told him point blank, "Okay, we'll spend our money and our energy and our media, our newspapers, and we'll put a president in there that we can control." And they did. And in 1913, Christmas time, they met at Senator Hyde with a bunch of other people at Jekyll Island in Georgia, United States, and come up with an agreement to create the Federal Reserve, which is not federal, but they could control the banking system and basically keep the country under control and make our leaders do what they want to do because they controlled the money. They could make these people homeless and the country destroyed if they didn't do what they were told. And since then, billions and billions and billions have been spent creating this New World Empire, which apparently these Zionist New York Jewish bankers and leaders of high levels of the Freemasons, Illuminati, Rosicrucians, and other organizations, Bilderberger groups, Club of Rome, Bohemian Grove folks, hundreds if not thousands of Mystery School of Babylon, occult Lucifer worshipping organizations. And to make it clear who they worship, it's apparently these interdimensional beings that operate behind the scenes. And their images are on buildings everywhere, and the symbols, whether they're gargoyles or guys in cloaked hoods up on your old buildings. Go look downtown. You'll look up and you go, "What is that hoodie thing looking over that funny looking creature?" Even Arizona Wilder, doing an interview with David Icke, said she was raised as a child to participate in the Illuminati, it's called witchcraft, rituals that they have where they sacrifice somebody, drink the blood, eat the flesh, and sexual rituals. And she says when they do eat the flesh and drink the blood and get vicious, they actually shapeshift into a reptilian creature, some of them. And apparently the leader of these organizations is called a Pindar. So if I'm mixing this up with the 1913, these Illuminati Pindar types, reptilian entities, apparently, created the Federal Reserve, controlled the economy, crashed it 8 or 9 times in the United States with bubbles, recessions, depressions, causing all the people across the United States to lose everything, go into despair, children starving, grown men leaping out of buildings, destroying our society as we know it, and that hardworking people had built up and saved to want to send their kids to school to have a decent life. They've been making sure that doesn't happen, apparently. So then they got this separate city, Washington, D.C., called the District of Columbia. Apparently Columbia is a name for one of these feminine deities, Columbia. And there's a special district in London, the financial district, and a special district in where the Vatican is, 3 of them. And apparently they are all under one corporation. Triangle is their symbol. These Rome, London financial district, that'll be the Zionist Jewish banksters in cahoots with the Pope and the leadership in the United States in the District of Columbia. So they're the actual federal corporation or world corporation that owns and controls everything else. And apparently during the 1880, whenever they had the financial bankruptcy in America, they created these United States of America Corporation. So we're operating under this, but they don't tell everybody this. And they can do whatever they want. They even pass laws, as many of us are aware, that they can abduct and assassinate anybody they want. Even do fake crisis actor shootings and bombings are legal in order to sway public opinion, or that what they like to call it, educate or re-educate the public, we the people. And they use something called the Hegelian dialectic. It's just basically a philosophy. You could get up on a podium and say, hey, we're going to annihilate all those countries in the Middle East. And you could probably imagine the uproar of the people in the United States or Europe. But if you stage an event, like 911, and radio-controlled planes, but said it was Arabs with box cutters who couldn't fly planes, and then Building 7, a football field's length away from the towers, free fell, which apparently that, when shown the video of the Building 7 free falling, I guess, what was his name, Denny from the Netherlands? I forget his last name. You can look it up on the computer. But he says, yeah, that's demolition. No doubt about it. He died of a horrific car crash after that. Prime Minister Sharon, after he said, don't worry about America, we control it, he was in a coma right after that. President John Kennedy, when he gave his famous speech, that secret societies and all these goings-on behind the scenes, I'm paraphrasing, are repugnant to the American way of life, and I'm going to expose it. Well, he died of a horrific shooting afterwards. So the government's lying. It seems like they're planning some kind of martial law event. They had Agenda 21, which is this protocol or philosophy they're trying to get all of our local city government states to follow. Having some kind of fear-mongering of resources, water, foods, weather control. And of course they're portraying the people as uncontrollable animals that can be not trusted, as H.G. Wells said. Even in the Freemasonic books and other texts, even the Theosophist Society, I've read, they say that we're profane. Of course, the Zionist Jewish folks call us goy-goyim animals. And now they've updated the Agenda 21 to an Agenda 2030, and they intend to have a global government, and they've been using these super treaties to override local, state, and even country laws. Did you know that when your leader signs a treaty, those agreements supersede, override the state laws? The Trans-Pacific one, the NAFTA, North American Trade Agreement, and the TTIP, TPA, TPP, and NAFTA. So they're trying to get some United Nations organization to control the world and enforce these treaties. And nobody will be able to use any kind of stream or creek or go out there and hunt for meat or go get a trout out of the creek. Grow your own food. Everything is going to have to be controlled. And they want to microchip everybody, which from my education, I've been involved in electronics all my life, but I suspect these microchips could just turn anybody off. Kill them. Looks like they got a crazy world plan for us. So the government's lying all the time about everything. The politicians are lying. And you look at the new choice, September 2016, of Hillary or Donald Trump. And everybody I talk to, this isn't just me, everybody that I talk to is befuddled. There's nothing we can even say with these choices. And the Donald Trump speeches that I've been watching, trying to be objective about this, he is promising everybody everything. Fences, bringing all the jobs back. Reducing taxes in every community and city and state all over the country. Watch his speech, don't believe me. And I'm listening and go, how can he deliver? But the people are just jumping up and screaming and holding up Trump signs. Make America great again. And I'm not anti-Trump or anti-Hillary. I want the decent person in government. I'm not a Republican or a Democrat. I'm a registered independent. I was a Republican, but George Bush did me in. And then even gave Obama the benefit of the doubt, but what I've seen him do, he did me in too. And Hillary's already proven herself to be a bit of a wacko. And Donald Trump, need I say anything? Look what comes out of his mouth. I'm speechless on that one. So they're claiming that we're having biodiversity issues, global warming, drought, sustainability. Meanwhile, the government and the organizations are apparently trying to destroy everything, shut down farms, all kinds of legislation or laws or rules, arresting people in the news for even having a garden, and some places outlawing fireplaces. Look this stuff up, don't believe me. So their corporations are lying, the politicians are lying, the government's lying, the schools and the medical and all the industries are controlled by these people. They'll dump toxins and pollutants and even radioactive waste into our environment and yet blame us for washing your car on Wednesday maybe, or growing a garden. Then you got the Wi-Fi, monitoring everything, programming us probably, affecting our cells. And you got the towers, all kinds. Even these boxes they're putting on your electrical panel. So apparently this is some kind of huge system called the Beast. They intend to have everything have some kind of gigantic computerized control, almost like the Borg on Star Trek. Everybody will be assimilated into this one. And strangely enough, this New Age Theosophist society, religion, believes that everything is all one. And when you die, you return back to the one. So I guess they're not going to wait till we die to make everybody one. So it's all about the New Age, the New World Order, biodiversity, global control, sustainability, United Nations in control of developments, even strong cities networks, all kinds of seeming like arrows coming from different directions to try to control every aspect of our lives. And what can they do? They got these HAARP transmitters, microwave transmitters, control the weather, open up a hole in the ionosphere, microwave an entire city, make people angry, agitated, kill them. They even have microwave crowd control vehicles, a truck with a dish on top, paid for with our tax dollars. Then they got CERN, the collider, apparently into some strange anomalies, portal openings. And there has been some documented strange events. Apparently one time when they turned on CERN, if it's true, one airline was en route from Venezuela maybe, and for some reason it time warped and it found itself coming at the shore of Spain. 1 second it's here, 1 second it's there. Like the Philadelphia experiment or the Jacob's Ladder, or H.G. Wells writing The Time Machine, who appears to be a high-level Freemason or Illuminati member. So what is our reality? What are these tools they have? The technologies. And apparently it's a lot of people, according to my research. Nikolai Tesla said so, and so did so many others. That they really weren't geniuses or creating everything that was created. They were actually in communication with these interdimensional beings. So if there have been advanced societies in the past, Atlantis, etc., it's documented by archaeological finds and monuments all over the world that apparently this world did exist, and that these people did die and they had souls and spiritual entities, and they are in this other world, this invisible reality, non-physical reality, spiritual reality, and they can be communicated in through seances like the Psychic Research Society and American Psychic Research Society from 1840 to 1940, longer than that, and before that and after that. But those were very intense periods of times. I have the big encyclopedia, thick volumes of books on these things, communication with these other beings. So what did they know about technologies and bring about? Remember, society was like this for thousands of years with its advanced technologies. Not growing very much at all. Think about it. Back in Rome, and the chariots, and the horses pulling the chariots. And then the Midwest 1700s in the United States, oxen and horses pulling the wagons west. So for thousands of years, technology didn't grow too much. Then out of nowhere, like 1900, when radio came about, and in 1910, and Henry Ford and the automobiles, in the span of 100 years, the curve goes into a tangent growth curve. I'm saying it appears that this was injected into our world for a purpose. This new age, new world order. So it's a technology of the devil, because apparently they want to bring us an evil world. Technology of the devil. And apparently with these weapons and laser beams, that you can go online and see some of the Navy ships and airplanes that can fire a laser beam. And apparently they can cause things like earthquakes in Yellowstone to erupt and other horrific things. With the sky spraying, they can control the sunlight and the chemicals that are in our bodies, weather control, destroy plants, animals, fish, bugs, bees, everything with whatever they're spraying. And we all know you're not supposed to mess with Mother Nature, and it looks like they, not you or I, are messing with Mother Nature to the nth degree. Can't be good for us. I keep saying that. And apparently one of the things they're dumping in the sky is coal ash, if you wonder what that stuff is, and then they add ingredients to the coal ash. Some people have done some testing, even said dried blood, aluminum, barium, strontium, heavy metals, aluminum, which causes neurological problems, Alzheimer's, and where you lose your mind, can't remember anything, and other kinds of ailments. I'm sure the long-term effects are even worse. Probably causes people to be infertile, can't get pregnant, can't have enough sperm in your body to make a baby. So they're trying to depopulate the planet and using all these tools to do it, in my opinion, from my research. So you got chemtrails, geoengineering, radioactive material likely being dumped and experimented on. And mass destruction is going on, weather control, weather warfare, and pesticides, herbicides, bees dying, trees, etc. I've said that. Geoengineering, climate change, environmental destruction, and they want to build a new human race. You got companies like Monsanto, Rand Corporation, all these other big corporations, Halliburton with Dick Cheney, building FEMA camps. Who's manufacturing all these hollow point bullets and all these weapons paid for with our tax dollars, by the way. Our own money is being spent on our own destruction. How ironic is that? So they're trying to destroy, if they haven't already, all the small farmers and businessmen. Think of all the paper supply, office supply stores and small business owners all over the United States, hardware stores, furniture stores, all these small business people with individual rights and power, now penniless and powerless. So we got all these genetically modified foods and organisms and vaccines and fluoride in the water and fluoride in the foods and fluoride in the toothpaste and toxins. It's almost amazing that as many of us are still alive. Then they're getting to the mind, destroying families, social order. Because when you have all these stresses and financial stress, family members dying in wars, spouses, crazy rioting and gun shootings and all this in neighborhoods, because people are generally determined to survive. Not too many of us want to just lie down and die because these freaks demonic, satanic, luciferic entities from the other side who are interacting with human beings who have turned against their own kind, so it seems. All these people trafficking children, getting caught in pedophilia. Even other countries passing legislation or laws reducing the age of child consent. Even professors and people with PhDs writing articles saying that it's normal for a grown man to be attracted to children. Somebody's redesigning what we think. They got sexual rituals, TV programming, all that stuff. Aleister Crowley promoting all that stuff, the Theosophist Society promoting all that stuff, the Kabbalah, Satanism, witchcraft, the occult. You got the Rockefellers with Eustace Mullins and writing his material about Rockefeller and so many other people, Fritz Springmeier of the Illuminati, and all these other high-level Illuminati Freemasons, intentionally destroying our world, controlling everything and taking over the medical field, industries, the educational field, school systems, police departments, trying to federalize all them. Destroy the family. You're making witchcraft popular. Don't even go on your computer and look up witchcraft holidays. You're going to see some sick stuff they do. Sacrificing of children and sexual pictures of children with satanic artifacts laid on these little naked bodies of infants. I know you don't want to hear this. I didn't want to see it. The gay agenda. Okay, I kept telling people it won't stop there. Back in 2008, everybody said, Rick, you're crazy. It's going to be okay. So it was 34% approval for gay marriage. But again, millions, billions of our tax dollars and United Nations controlling the situation, providing the money for the propaganda, and professors and school systems to write movies and produce videos. Every year, it increases a couple percent of approval for gay marriage. Costs a lot of money. And a lot of people just got over it. They said, man, I don't care. They gave up. They allowed themselves. They got tired of it. And if you read the Protocols of Zion, it says they're going to dump this propaganda out there so that people will get tired of it. We'll be exhausted. Can't take it anymore. And that's how the mind works, by the way. Any healthy, functioning human being like me or you can handle 4 or 5 or 6 controversial things at a time. Like 1 is your job, 2 maybe your wife and your kids, 3 maybe football, 4 doing the maintenance on the house, 5 watching what's going on in the news. You can handle a normal amount of stress on your brain, of information. But once it goes beyond 4 or 5 or 6 stressful issues, concerning issues, things you have to focus on, like this new election with Hillary and Trump, and wars in the Middle East, and threats of plagues, and sky spraying, and HARP transmissions, and aliens, and hater Christians. All of a sudden you get a functional overload of your brain. This is whole documents written on this subject in a much clearer explanation that I'm giving here. I talk at my level, which is, I think, just an average guy out there trying to figure out what the heck is going on. But once you exceed that level of things bombarding you, people break down and they shut down and they shut out. If you try talking to people, you'll see they'll tell you to back off. I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to know about it. I don't care. A friend of mine said to me the other day, Rick, why do you care? How is it affecting you today now? What does it matter to you if they're killing all those Arabs in the Middle East and destroying all those countries? Well, maybe I'm not a rocket scientist or Sherlock Holmes, but I kind of believe what happens there, if we let it, will happen here, will happen in Europe. And this, everything I'm talking about, seems like they're trying to destroy our world. So then you got Hollywood promoting sex. You got, generally speaking, much of the population is under a hypnotic control, a trance. They're not aware. They call them zombies. They even made a TV show called Zombies. The elites like making fun of us. They create things like the Black Lives Matter, the Tea Party, and other organizations. A lot of money spent getting these people riled up. It's part of the mind control, trance control, confusing people, Hegelian dialectic, and Hillary and Trump, full aware of these things. They don't probably, whichever one wins won't actually be in control. We all know that, I hope. The puppet masters will still be in control. And it's all part of the divide and conquer tactic. The gays against the straights, the blacks against the whites. American citizens against the immigrants coming from the Central South America to take your jobs. The evil terrorists, all the people in the Middle East. And now they're demonizing Iran. Who will they demonize next? They're demonizing Christians now. Divide and conquer, racial warfare, illegal immigration, economic destruction. Even Alan Greenspan, you can go look this up on the computer. They were having a congressional hearing, and the congressman said, are we running a program called Creative Economic Destruction? And Alan Greenspan said yes. So they were trying to economically destroy the economy in the United States. Supposedly, a little chart dropped, to slow down growth and progress and its effect on the environment and the climate. My question is, do you believe that's the truth, the reason they're doing it? When you take everything else I'm talking about into context, all the money, the billions they spend on weapons and inventing new plagues and viruses and getting weapons distributed across the country, and all the books and magazines and legislation passed, movies and all that detail and showing what they're going to do. Some of those books and movies and documents are 100 years or more older. It's easy to see that this is a plan in the making. And my research has also shown me, that they were gearing up for World War I, World War II, prior to the event that kicked it off. Didn't President Roosevelt get elected promising not to take us into the war? Meanwhile, he was working with his Illuminati, high-level Freemasonic types, Jewish Zionist banksters to get us into the war. In 1880-something, Albert Pike wrote a letter, the leader of the Freemasons, a general for the South in the war between the North and the South, the United States. He wrote a letter to his friend Mazzini in Italy saying there would be 3 world wars required, and who would fight those wars, what they would be fought about, in order to bring about the New World Order. And apparently even Aleister Crowley or Albert Pike or Helena Blavatsky and many others, including Nikolai Tesla, and he said so, all these people were communicating with some kind of masters or interdimensional beings or entities who were providing them with material for these books that are encyclopedia thick. Even in the Bible mentions prophets. Even Jesus said to the Jews of that day, "Ye are the killers of your prophets." So this spiritual world, God's world, apparently not all of it's good. There's a lot of evil entities in that world. Where God cast out Lucifer and a third of angels too, I don't know. But apparently they went somewhere. And apparently a lot of these evil satanic religious organizations into witchcraft and the occult are communicating with these entities, creatures. So they're creating this, they want to bring this new age on, this new religion, which apparently involves human slavery for these elites, under the control, it seems, of some kind of demonic beings. Call them reptilian, half-breed, alien, DNA, Syrians, aquatic creatures, gray aliens, and then of course the spiritual beings. You can go on Yahoo image site and look up pixies, cherubim mentioned in the Bible, angels, divas, Elohim, genies over in the Middle East. If you look at the pictures, there's a similarity to all these different groups. I don't see much difference between a cherubim and a cherubim of the Christian religion, angelic type of monster being, and the genie of the people in the Middle East. And of course the Buddhists and the Hindus and other religions have their own names for these characters, including, if you go look up books like Carlos Castaneda, A Separate Reality, where he goes to Mexico and meets with a sorcerer, Shama, witchcraft, man, Mexican. Don Juan takes peyote and gets to see this other reality. I've gone over that in my videos. And in Peru, they take the awasha drug, and all over the world, and they get to leave this reality, speed up the frequency of their body, and see these entities. So if I keep going back to this in this conversation, with the real thing going on in the world, where they have economic warfare and racial warfare, and even Alan Greenspan testifying they were doing that, and even the Illuminati banksters, since they took over the Federal Reserve in 1913, crashing the system 8 times, fleecing everything from we citizens. I've mentioned this before, it's worth mentioning again. We can see that there's a tie between the goings-on in this physical reality and the satanic, luciferic, non-physical reality beings apparently guiding some traitors to humanity people to do that to us. If I have to sum this up. World War I, World War II, they faked events to kick off the war, sent a lot of our young men and women off to war from both sides. The Germans died, the British died, the French died, the Americans died, the Russians died. All controlled by apparently these Mystery School of Babylon, Illuminati, Zionist, Satanic, Lucifer types, who are controlling everything now, the United Nations included. Even, I think, this week, there's a bunch of world religious leaders gathered in Jerusalem who have supposed to be having some kind of consecration. This is September 13th, 2016. And apparently this month, a few days ago, they put the archway, the Arch of Baal in New York City again, in London. And apparently there's 1,000 of these arch portals going up all over the world to open up some kind of interdimensional portal to bring these entities in, which is prophesied in the Bible. That's why it's so important for me to mention it. Even the symbolism of the Federal Reserve and the symbols on the U.S. $1 bill, all 13s, icing all, Egyptian pyramids, owl Moloch on it, eagle called Mendes by Albert Pike in the Bible for the Masons, Morals, and Dogma, also representative as the phoenix rising, which is part of the occult. And even in our entertainment, they're using these symbols over and over again. In particular, the Eurovision, like the American Idol program, Conchita Wurst won the contest. Conchita means a female part, Wurst means a male part, sausage. And this Conchita Wurst, man-woman type of thing, and Baal's supposed to be a androgynous being, half man, half woman. So if you're paying attention, you can catch all the connecting the dots, satanic, luciferic, New Age symbolism. Anyways, he sang the song The Phoenix Rising, which has the words in it, "You can't stop us." And I've got other books that I've read, books just on the all-seeing eye, the Illuminati. The beast computer they're building to monitor and control everything, including things like Project Bluebeam, where they can create holographic images in the sky. Apparently several places around the world, they've seen these gigantic cities floating every now and then, apparently becoming more common. So I suspect they're running more tests on these high-tech alchemy, witchcraft technologies to mess with our minds, to make us think one thing when it's another thing. Oh. I noticed something, just focusing on things once in a while, but if one can contemplate for a moment on how the media, the newspapers, magazines, TV programming, and all that works, we can see that the people who control the media, radio, whatever, can control what kind of stuff they want to come at us, because they pay people for their articles, and people make a living writing what these media people will pay for. The Illuminati, Zionist, Jesuits out of the Vatican, banksters, elitist, New World Order people, New Age. So people want to get a paycheck. That's how our economic system works. And they know what the different organizations, newspapers, magazines, radio programming, or etc. will pay for. So they write what they know they want to hear, including professors and scientists. You know, they can't just publish in their associations and organizations what they want to. They have peer control and have all kinds of mechanisms. So everything is controlled by the money people. And even Hillary said she wants to get alternate media under control. They don't like free thinking, free speech, gun ownership, your ability to say no to 25 or 30 vaccines stuck in your baby. They don't want you to grow food that's healthy. Animals without all these hormones and chemicals pumped into them. Vegetables and all. They want you to eat what they want you to eat. And all this stuff keeps building up and the rules are tightening. So I think at some point, we people need to wake up. But they're using all kinds of mind control on people. Project Bluebeam, maybe, where they'll have holographic images. Project Paperclip was a program where they brought all those German scientists that they grabbed after World War II, created little towns and cities and locations all over the United States, reverse engineering all these technologies these German scientists obtained, apparently through their communication, through the Vril Society, the Thule Society, the Black Sun organizations, these occultic groups in communication with these other beings. So now the USA leaders who control our country have all these technologies and been developing some very sinister things in laboratories. And according to Leonard Cole or Leonard Horowitz and many other people, things you can look up, they've been testing these sciences and technologies, i.e. alchemy and witchcraft and mind control, on we the people. They know what they're doing. They know how we react. They've tested and tested and tested. And apparently they're even making funny things like ISIS is after the world, the threat from the Middle East, when apparently there are many other alternate websites and other people in the know who say ISIS is no different than Al-Qaeda and Hamas and these other organizations, which are paid mercenaries, guerrilla fighters, wearing hoods, you notice if you pay attention to the news. Never see their faces. And killing people, including in Iraq recently in the news, like vicious animals with knives and swords and machine guns and trucks and running over people, digging big holes with bulldozers and burying them. There is a focused reality being created. People watched this horrific thing going on and reported it. In Iraq. I'm sure in Syria. And they probably plan on this with the FEMA camps and all this in the USA. Unwanted people, I guess is the point. And these demonic beings do not like, I should say they hate, Jesus. You're not allowed to even speak about Jesus in the army that's in the manual or in the Freemasonic lodges. I'm saying, so they got this enemy, their arch enemy, Christianity and Jesus. So they created ISIS, Al-Qaeda, and then they used Project Paperclip to bring the scientists over here from Germany and reverse engineer all that technology, weapons, mind control, MK Ultra, Project Montauk, abducting little boys all over New York, Connecticut, Massachusetts, and experimenting with them. Apparently even tossing them, pushing them through portals they were opening up to another dimension or a time portal. I don't know. They got piles of bones and a lot of books written and stories told. Witnesses. Insiders. Terrorism, Illuminati, false flags, MK Ultra, mind control, all these things I'm talking about. Even that movie Avatar tells us the truth. Even Jesus in the Bible, a dozen times cast out unclean spirits or demonic beings. And from what I understand, there's a couple points here, but these people who are into these Illuminati satanic type religions, even these Zionist Talmudic Jewish people sacrificing children, when they do these demonic things, they apparently open up within themselves so that some kind of entity, demonic, spiritual being, can occupy their body and operate through them. So they're telling us that with a movie like Avatar. And then with the aliens, if you read the description and the goings-on in the aliens, I have a lot of UFO books and I've read it in detail, Whitley Strieber and many others. And even people have claimed that when they were being abducted, they cried out in Jesus' name, and the entity dropped them like a hot potato. What's with that? Makes me think. Then they got something called the Hollow Earth theory. We're apparently part of the Vril Society and other things with the Nordics and some sunken continent like Atlantis called Hyperborea. And entryways into the earth mentioned in the Bible. Even the entryway to paradise, the Garden of Eden, in the Bible is guarded by a cherubim with a sword, who at the entrance is waving the sword every which way. And that one book I went over, the 3 Sevens, the Initiates, the Theophist Society, the Rosicrucian book, Apparently, when you get trained and initiated into the illumined level to become almost godlike, you are so powerful you can get by that cherubim guarding the entryway to the Garden of Eden, God's kingdom. What are we dealing with here with? What I'm trying to say with this video, without getting tongue-tied, what are we dealing with? Tell me where any of this stuff is false, that you can't go find tons of supporting information. Stuff in the Bible. Stuff etched in stone on the pyramids. Zachariah Stitchen's books. Stuff etched on stones and scrolls. Cuneiform tablets. Stuff on the sides of mountains in Peru. In the mountains and in the caves in Ecuador. Ancient stories and myths by the American Indians, the Aborigines in Australia, the ancient Chinese, Hindu, Mongolians, Eskimos, American Indians, Central Mayans. So it's all there. Just wonder where it's going to take us if we don't wake up. There's plenty of documented history of aliens in history. Even the Hindus, on some of their old paintings, they got flying saucers in the background. Then there's the flat earth theory they're promoting everywhere, which just makes me wonder, because seems to me the 66.6 thousand miles an hour earth hurtling around the sun seems to be stretching it. There's some problems with that. First of all, the Apollo craft, when it got out of orbit, or any other craft we send on to another planet, would be gone in the dust. So do we have an alien threat? Are there really reptilians, like David Icke says and many others? Palladians? If you go listen to Barbara Manichek and these other videos on YouTube with these workshops and speakers, also into astrology. Tell me where I'm wrong, that there doesn't seem to be this other world. And these people into this Theophist religion, this occult, this Kabbalah material, Rosicrucian, Masonic, Illuminati, the United Nations religion, by the way. Look at the meditation room, where they think the sun is a living entity, and the moon is a living entity. And apparently this big Herculumbus, Planet X, is coming, and it's a living entity. A cosmic Christ, so to speak. The Elohim mentioned in the Bible, all the satanic and Luciferic symbolism we're all being bombarded with every day lately. Movie stars doing this, saying this is a love sign when it's actually the devil sign. The 3 6s everywhere they're doing. There's some kind of possession going around on the planet, and trances and mind controls, so it seems. All these things they're doing. And into the horrific people testifying, whistleblowers or insiders or witnesses or people who escaped of the horrible sexual rape, children, women, men. And some people being raised from children. People are even sitting on talk TV programming telling how they were raised as a child into these satanic families. Go watch these programs with Barbara Manichek talking about the Palladians are here, the Syrians are here, they are with us today, the Pixies, the gray aliens, and the masters of the universe are here. What are people believing? Or have they all shut down and blocked it all out? So you got secret societies, witchcraft, government hiring and training people to do remote viewing, leave their body. Psychic research going on. Alice Bailey, Annie Besant, Helena Blavatsky, Alice Crowley, Lucifer Magazine, Theophist Society, with an office right next door to the United Nations. And you got the Masonic societies, the media propaganda, microchipping people. But look it up. They've been microchipping children in California, Texas, Florida, probably everywhere. And people. They got the education stuff going on in schools. From the children. Remember, if you're older, you remember this. But they had these little roundlings called Pokemon. Little demonic looking little creatures. And I said to myself way back then, I said, you will look in the future. So I had taken a couple psychology courses when I went to school, college. And I knew how the mind gets imprinted with things. And I said, in the future, the kids are going to look like those Pokemon chips. And now they got this new Pokemon crazy thing going on. And it's probably the same people who were indoctrinated into the Pokemon chips 20-something years ago. Coincidence? And I hate to keep saying it, but I will. But there are a lot of seemingly bad Jewish people out there. And a lot of good Jewish people out there trying to tell us, who have written books and are protesting. If you go look up Yahoo image site and type in Zionist, etc., you will see many good Jewish people. When I call it good, I mean people who still go towards God and believe in Jesus, whatever. They haven't turned towards this dark side. And these entities, demonic entities in the non-physical world and the non-visible world, into these ceremonies and rituals where they actually get in trances or controlled by people who are the controllers, and use these hand signs and stuff to control slaves, sex slaves. There's been plenty of people come out about that. But so when I say evil Jewish people, I'm saying people who are into the New World Age, New World Order, trying to control the world, controlling all the money, and controlling the porn industries and the Hollywood, and bringing us all this garbage and filth into our life and our minds. Sex industry, the porn industry. I mean, I watch shows like Gotham and Texas Rangers. I like adventure shows. But they portray humans in a seriously disgusting way. Horrible! Almost as if we humans are demons in the things they do. So I had to quit watching those programs. I can't find too much I like to watch. I can go to the old TV programming. But some of that even is a little bit bizarre if you start to become aware of what the intent is. So they're mass manipulating the population of the people on the planet with all these secret societies and satanic and Lucifer stuff. And they got the magazines. Even the Freemasons had a magazine called the New Age magazines. Albert Pike's Moral and Dogma. George Bush graduating or participating with the Skull and Bones when he went to college. They had to do some crazy stuff there. Kind of sick. So we're all being manipulated with the porn, Hollywood, I've said that. Economic destruction. Even in the medical hospitals, the fluoride. The drugs everybody's taking, the alcohol. Our whole lives right now is a big facade. The structure of society is hanging by a thread. Maybe a dozen threads. Maybe a million threads. And they can snip them wherever they want. And destroy nations like they're doing right now in Venezuela, who is the #1 country, has the most oil reserves in the world. And they apparently, with all that mountains and all those vegetative lands and tropical forest, apparently they have tons of diamonds and gold and everything else. Why would those people be being starved to death right now? Well, it's punishment because the leadership of Venezuela is not under the thumb of these elitists. So they'll do the same thing to any country, anytime they want, with all these things I talked about, with all these tools and weapons to use against us. physical weapons, spiritual weapons, mind control, even getting the people agitated to come to our homes and rip down the door and come inside and kill us if they want to make us appear to be demons in the mass population's minds. Maybe they'll make it, if you're a Christian, they'll hate you. Hater. Who are you to tell me I can't murder somebody, or I can't go out and jump into a gigantic orgy and have sex with your children? Hater. Is that what's going on? Freemasons, banksters, Illuminati, Jesuits, Pindar reptilian creatures, Bohemian Grove throwing babies into fires, Zionism, Rosicrucian, the Crusades, where they killed all those Middle Easterners 8 times over 300 years, and other worldwide murdering going on, and changes in our reality with this Pokemon and the beast system monitoring thing, computer system, digitalizing everything, planning on and they're intentionally controlling us like zombies with microchips. Just makes one wonder when the craziness will stop. I'm not worried because I think I have a get-out-of-jail-free card. In the Bible and the religion I grew up with, it prophesizes all this. It talks about all this. And it says if you believe in God, believe that Jesus came to the planet and was crucified and rose again on the 3rd day and all that stuff, then you're going to be saved from apparently what's coming. And I know some people will go, Rick, there is no devil. And Jesus was a myth. That's all fake. Well, I hate to tell you this, but I've been reading their books, the Illuminati, the Freemasons, the Theosophist Society, the occult, the Kabbalah, and all those books, initiation and all of that. None of them say there wasn't a Jesus. Edgar Cayce, all these people into the psychic world, none of them say there wasn't a Jesus. Or there isn't other types of beings and masters and angels. They all say it does exist. The only people who doesn't believe any of this exists are the people who have been mind controls, 85% maybe of the population, who are under some kind of trance, who have been bombarded with so much information, they have blocked it all out. They don't want to participate and question things or get involved any longer. They're worn out. And if you read, like I said earlier, the Protocols of Zion and other books on these subjects, that's what these evil forces said they were going to do. That it would just come at us year after year after year after year, and the people could not take it anymore. They would be exhausted. And then when they create some huge catalytic event, call it nuking a couple cities, call it shutting off all the food and water supplies, I don't know. But then when these people offer, we the people, 85, 90% of the population, when they offer us some solution with some strings, you got to take the microchip. You got to go where we tell you to go to work. You can't have a child or get married to anybody without permission. You need to give up your guns, give up your freedom, and the environment will stabilize. How many people do you think will go for it? Who will say they've had enough? Anyways, that's my story. Thank you for watching my video. This is my first experiment with just not using a book or a magazine or photos or anything, and telling my story, what I think I have learned since 2005, 12 years of research and studying my perception of what the world is. What do you think? Are you thinking? Many of you are, I know.